The night was quiet, and the old building stood in silence inside. A young man named Daniel carried a box into his small apartment. He was tired from work and only wanted rest. But this night was different, because he was told a new roommate would arrive. Daniel did not ask for a roommate, but the landlord said it was already arranged. Cheaper rent sounded good, so Daniel agreed. He placed the box down and heard footsteps in the hall. A tall figure appeared at the door. Holding one black bag, the figure smiled too wide, like someone who practiced but never truly learned. "My name is Cale," the stranger said. His voice was deep, calm, but carried a strange echo. Daniel shook his hand and felt a strange coldness. Like touching metal left outside at night, Cale entered the room and looked around slowly. His eyes seemed normal at first, but sometimes the light caught them. For a second they looked brighter, almost glowing. Daniel thought it was only tired eyes playing tricks. The new roommate moved quietly, too quietly. Not a single sound when he walked across the old wooden floor. That night Daniel tried to sleep, but he heard faint noises from Cale's room. Not music, not talking, but strange clicking sounds, like small machines turning on and off. Curiosity pulled him from his bed. He placed his ear against the wall. The sounds grew louder. Mechanical, then stopped. A moment of silence. Then he heard Cale's voice. The words were not English. They were sharp and broken, like stones hitting glass. Daniel stepped back, heart beating fast. Maybe Cale was only talking on the phone. Maybe it was another language, nothing strange. But his gut whispered danger. He lay awake until morning, eyes open, ears waiting. The clicking did not return, but the silence was heavier than noise. Next day, Daniel tried to know his roommate better. He asked simple questions like, "Where are you from?" Cale answered softly, "Far away," and nothing more. He asked about family. Cale only smiled. When food was offered, Cale refused, saying he already ate. But Daniel never saw him cook or order anything. At night, the strangeness grew stronger. Daniel noticed Cale never slept in a bed. Through the half-open door, he saw Cale standing perfectly still in the corner. Eyes closed but body straight, like a soldier frozen in time. Hours passed and he did not move. It was not rest, it was something else. One evening, Daniel forgot his phone in the living room. When he stepped out to get it, he froze. Cale sat at the table with small devices spread across the surface. Shiny tools that looked like silver needles, glowing stones and strange wires. The air smelled like burned metal. Daniel tried to step back, but Cale turned his head. Those glowing eyes locked on him for the first time. "Could not sleep?" Cale asked. His voice sounded heavier, deeper, not fully human. Daniel forced a smile and grabbed his phone. "Yeah, just needed this," he said. Cale watched him with stillness, then nodded slowly. Daniel walked back into his room, closed the door, and pressed his back against it. His hands were shaking. Something inside whispered, "This man is not who he says he is." The next morning, Daniel searched the internet. He typed descriptions of the devices, glowing stones, silver needles. Nothing matched, no record, no explanation. He even tried searching strange languages, but all he found were myths and ghost stories. When Cale returned from outside, Daniel noticed he carried nothing. No grocery bags, no books, no food. Only that same black bag. Always the same. Days turned to a week, and Daniel's fear grew with each hour. One night he woke again to the sound of Cale's voice through the wall. This time the words were clearer. The strange language stopped, and Daniel heard English. "This human will do," Cale whispered. Daniel froze in his bed, blood cold, those words repeated in his mind. "This human will do." He pulled the blanket tighter and stared at the ceiling. His roommate was not normal, not human. Daniel knew it in his bones. But he also knew something worse. Cale was planning something, and Daniel was the target. Daniel could not sleep after those words. "This human will do" echoed in his mind like a curse. He told himself it was nothing. Maybe Cale was only talking in a dream. But deep inside he knew it was not sleep talk. It was a choice, a plan, and he was the center of it. Next morning, Daniel watched his roommate carefully. Cale moved with calm steps, his face as cold as stone. He greeted Daniel with a simple nod. No smile, no warmth. Daniel forced himself to act normal, to hide the storm inside his chest. But every movement Cale made felt heavy with secret meaning. The sound of a door closing, the way he carried that black bag, the way his eyes followed Daniel for 1 second too long. All of it painted a dark picture. Daniel tried to distract himself with his normal life. Work, food, messages from friends. But even outside the apartment, he felt watched. When he returned home at night, Kyle was always there, sitting silently, waiting, or working on strange objects that did not belong to Earth. Sometimes Daniel caught glimpses, glowing metal spheres, thin wires that seemed alive, shifting like worms, and a small container filled with liquid that shimmered like fire. One evening, Daniel dropped his keys on purpose near Cale's door. He bent down slowly, pretending to pick them up, but his eyes scanned under the door frame. Inside, he saw lights flickering, blue, red, white. Not like a lamp. It looked like tiny storms trapped in glass. He froze when he heard Cale's voice. The alien spoke again in that strange language. Sharp sounds that scraped against Daniel's ears. And then in English, a whisper. Strong genes. Must be tested. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. He stood quickly and walked back to his room, heart pounding so hard he thought Cale might hear it. Inside his room, he pressed the lock and sat against the wall. His hands shook as he held his phone. Should he call someone? The police? A friend? What would he even say? My roommate might be an alien? No one would believe him. And if Cale found out, he knew he would not live long enough to explain. That night, Daniel decided to investigate more. When Cale finally left the apartment, Daniel rushed into his room. He opened the closet and almost fell back. Inside were devices stacked on shelves, strange rods, silver discs that pulsed like hearts, and one tablet-like screen glowing with unreadable symbols. Daniel touched one disc and it came alive. It floated gently in the air, humming softly. Startled, Daniel pulled his hand back and the disc fell. It landed with no sound, as if it weighed nothing. On the desk he found a notebook, but the pages were filled with odd drawings. Human figures sketched like experiments, lines pointing to muscles, bones, blood vessels, and under each drawing strange symbols. At the bottom of one page was a single English word written in Kyle's sharp handwriting. Breeding. Daniel's stomach turned. He shoved the notebook closed and placed everything back quickly. When he stepped out, the front door creaked open. Cale was back. Daniel barely reached his own room in time. The door shut just as Cale's footsteps echoed down the hall. The following days were a silent war. Daniel acted calm, but inside every second was filled with fear. Cale studied him openly now, watching him eat, watching him drink, asking strange questions. How often do humans heal from a cut? How many hours of sleep before your body breaks down? Daniel answered carefully, trying not to show fear. But his roommate's glowing eyes saw everything. One night, Daniel could not take it anymore. He packed a small bag, ready to leave forever. But as he reached the door, Cale's voice came from behind. Going somewhere? He asked. Daniel turned slowly, heart racing. Cale stood in the dark hallway, the glow of his eyes brighter than ever. You should not leave, Cale said, his voice calm but cold. You are important. Daniel forced a laugh. I just need some air. But Cale stepped closer, silent as a shadow. You are stronger than most, Cale whispered. You're exactly what we need. Daniel's blood turned to ice. He wanted to scream, to run, but his legs would not move. Cale placed a hand on his shoulder, heavy and cold. For now, rest, Kyle said. But soon, you will help us. That night Daniel lay in bed. Eyes wide open, the machines hummed again through the wall. The strange language filled the air like a curse, and between the sharp words came the English whisper again. This human will do. Daniel knew now the truth. Cale was not here to share rent. He was here for something darker, something hidden, something that involved Daniel's body, and there was no escape. The apartment felt like a cage now. Daniel counted the hours, waiting for Cale to leave. But Cale left less and less, as if he knew Daniel wanted escape. The alien presence filled every corner. Every sound Daniel made felt like it was being measured. Every breath felt recorded. One evening, Daniel heard the strange machines again. But this time, curiosity overpowered fear. He slipped out of his room and crept down the hallway. Cale's door was slightly open, light leaking through the crack, blue, red, and gold lights flickered like living fire. Daniel pushed the door gently and looked inside. What he saw froze him in place. Cale was standing in the middle of the room, but his human shape was gone. The skin peeled away like a mask. Underneath, his body glowed faintly. His skin was pale gray, with patterns that moved like liquid. 2 extra eyes opened above the human ones. Glowing with fire, his fingers stretched longer. Sharp like tools on his back, thin spines shimmered. Shifting with breath, Daniel almost gasped, but he covered his mouth. Kale spoke in his alien language. His voice was layered, one deep tone mixed with another higher tone. The room was filled with floating devices, silver discs spinning around him, shining symbols in the air. The air smelled sharp, like electricity and blood mixed together. Then Kale touched one device and spoke in English. Human genes are strong. We will survive with this body. He moved one clawed finger over the floating symbols, and the image of a human skeleton appeared. It twisted slowly in the air, bones glowing red. Daniel's stomach turned as Kale whispered again, "This human will do." Daniel backed away, but the floor creaked. Kale's extra eyes snapped open. Glowing bright, "Who is there?" The alien voice thundered. Daniel ran back to his room, slammed the door. He pressed his back against it, shaking. The hallway lights flickered as Kale's footsteps echoed closer. Then silence. The door handle shook once, then stopped. Kale did not enter. Instead, his voice whispered through the crack. "You should not hide from me, Daniel." Daniel did not sleep that night. When morning came, Kale acted normal again. He wore his human mask, smiled too wide, cooked eggs in the kitchen, though Daniel never saw him eat. But his words were sharper now. "You are tired, Daniel," Kale said. "You should not spy on things you do not understand." Daniel froze, trying to play dumb. "I don't know what you mean," he muttered. But Kale leaned closer, eyes glowing faint under the mask. "You know enough," he whispered. "You know I am not human." Daniel's heart stopped. The truth was out, spoken plainly. Kale set the plate of eggs down without touching it, then sat across the table. "I am from far beyond this world," Kale said. "My people are dying, we cannot reproduce, our bodies are weak, our bloodline breaking." His voice was calm, almost sad. "But humans are strong. Your bodies can carry what ours cannot. Your blood can awaken what is lost." Daniel stared, trying to find words. "So, you want to breed with humans?" he whispered. Kale tilted his head, expression unreadable. "We do not call it that, we call it survival." Daniel's hands shook under the table. "What if I don't want to help you?" he asked. Kyle smiled, too wide again. "You do not have a choice." Later that night, Daniel locked himself in his room, but the walls seemed thinner than before. He heard Kale speaking to someone or something. The alien voice echoed like two beings speaking at once. Daniel pressed his ear to the wall. At first the language was strange, but then English slipped through. "This human is perfect." "This one will be the first." Daniel pulled back, cold sweat dripping down his face. He knew Kale was planning something soon, and he was the subject, not a guest, not a roommate, but an experiment hours later. Daniel woke with a start. The room was dark, too dark. The air hummed softly. He tried to move, but his arms were heavy. He looked down and froze. Thin silver straps wrapped around his wrists and ankles. They glowed faintly, holding him to the chair. His own chair in his own room, but changed into something else, a machine. And Kale stood in front of him without his human mask, those burning eyes staring deep into him. "It is time," Kale whispered. "You will help us live again." Daniel's breath came in short bursts. The silver straps burned against his skin, no matter how hard he pulled. They would not break. Kale moved closer, his alien form glowing faintly in the dark, 4 eyes shining like small suns, his spine shifting and crackling with energy. "You are afraid," Kyle said, his layered voice calm. "Fear is natural, but it will not stop what must happen." Daniel shook his head, his voice breaking. "You can't do this. I'm not part of your plan." Kale leaned close, the air around him buzzing like static. "You are the plan," he whispered. Kale touched the floating disc beside him. It came alive with a hum, symbols glowed across the air, alien letters twisting into strange patterns. Daniel watched helpless as Kale adjusted knobs and pulled at wires. The machine around him clicked to life. The straps tightened, heat crawling up his arms. Kale pressed one clawed finger to Daniel's forehead. For a second, Daniel saw flashes, images of tall cities under red skies, dead alien bodies floating in black water, and endless silence. Kale's voice filled the room. "My people are fading. We tried to heal ourselves. We failed. We tried to clone our blood, but it breaks." "Your kind is the only hope," Daniel gasped. "You mean you want to use humans as experiments?" Kale did not flinch. "Not experiments, hosts. Your blood will carry the future of my race." Daniel struggled harder. But the straps dug deeper, he shouted. I won't let you use me. Kyle tilted his head, his extra eyes blinking one by one. You do not need to let me, he said coldly. The machine hissed, and a long silver needle extended from the side. It shimmered with strange liquid that pulsed like a living thing. Daniel's heart thundered as it moved closer. But then the machine sparked violently. The lights flickered red, and the hum turned into a painful screech. Cale snapped his head toward the device. No, not yet, he muttered in his alien tongue. The needle froze just inches from Daniel's arm. Smoke rose from one of the glowing stones. Cale hissed and slammed his claw into the disc. The lights died instantly. Daniel sat trembling. The straps loosening slightly, Cale turned his burning eyes back toward him. His voice was low, dangerous. You are not ready. Cale released the straps and Daniel fell to the floor. His arms shaking, his legs weak, he tried to crawl away. But Cale grabbed him by the collar, lifting him easily as if he weighed nothing. You will not leave, Cale growled. Not until the experiment succeeds. He threw Daniel onto the bed and stepped back. For the first time, Daniel saw something like desperation in those alien eyes. Not just cold science, but fear. Cale's hands shook slightly as he spoke. My people are counting on me. If I fail, we all die. Then he covered his alien form again with his human mask, the glowing eyes fading into a normal stare. You will help, Daniel, he said, or I will make sure you never leave this place alive. The following days blurred together. Cale locked himself in the room with his machines. The clicking, the humming, the strange voices filled the nights. Sometimes Daniel smelled burning metal. Sometimes he felt the floor vibrate under his bed. Once he saw sparks shoot under Cale's door like lightning. Daniel stayed quiet, pretending to be normal. But inside he planned. Searching for any chance to escape one afternoon, Cale finally stepped out of his room. His face looked tired, his mask slipping. For a moment, Daniel saw his gray skin flicker under the disguise. Cale carried a small container filled with glowing blue liquid. He set it on the table and stared at it like it was a holy treasure. This is the beginning, Cale whispered. With this, we will rise again, Daniel asked carefully. What is it? Kyle looked at him with those sharp, endless eyes. Life, he said. But it is unstable. It cannot survive alone. It needs a human host. Daniel's chest grew heavy. He realized what Cale meant. That liquid was alive, and Cale planned to put it inside him. Daniel's mind raced. He had to escape before the next experiment began. But Cale was always watching, always listening. And the machines were growing stronger. That night, Daniel lay in bed, pretending to sleep. Through the wall, he heard Cale again. The alien voice sharp and broken. But then came English words that made his skin crawl. Tomorrow, the first attempt, tomorrow. The human will be ready. Daniel's heart sank. Tomorrow, he would no longer be Daniel. He would be something else. And maybe he would not survive to tell the story. The night felt endless. Daniel lay in bed, his eyes wide open. Every tick of the clock pushed him closer to morning, closer to Cale's words. Tomorrow. The first attempt, the thought crushed him like a heavy stone. When dawn finally came, Daniel forced himself to act calm. He sat at the table, sipping cold coffee with shaking hands. Cale entered the room, carrying his black bag. His human mask was slipping again. The skin flickered like broken light for a moment. Daniel saw gray scales under the illusion, and 4 glowing eyes staring through. You are quiet today, Cale said slowly. Daniel swallowed hard. He knew if he showed fear, Cale would tighten the trap, so he spoke carefully. If you really want me alive for this experiment, then you need me healthy and you need me willing. Cale tilted his head, his expression unreadable. Willing, he echoed. Daniel forced a weak smile. You don't understand humans. If you break us, we resist. But if you work with us, we give more, maybe even what you need. The silence stretched. Heavy and sharp, Kyle studied him with those 4 hidden eyes. Finally he spoke, his layered voice low. You are trying to bargain with me. Daniel nodded, his heart pounding. Not bargain, survive. If you want results, you need cooperation, so I will help. But only if you follow my rules. Cale leaned closer, his cold breath brushing Daniel's cheek. Rules? He whispered. Humans have rules? Daniel nodded again, his voice steadier now. Yes, rules. No needles without explanation. No machines without my agreement, and no secrets if you want me. You have to share the truth. Cale was silent for a long moment. Then he stepped back, his body trembling slightly. For the first time, Daniel saw something like hesitation or maybe curiosity. "You are strange," Kyle muttered. "No other species speaks to us like this." Daniel gripped the edge of the table. "That's because I'm human, and humans don't just obey, we adapt, we fight. We think." Kyle's mask flickered again, his alien form shining through. Finally, he nodded slowly. "Very well, human. You will help me, and in return I will follow your rules." Daniel let out a shaky breath. It was not freedom, but it was survival. At least for now. The days that followed became something new. A twisted partnership. Kale allowed Daniel to move more freely, but never outside the apartment. Instead, Daniel sat with him at the table, explaining human biology in simple words. He drew sketches on paper. He pointed to muscles, bones, blood, and Kale listened carefully. 4 glowing eyes locked on every detail. Daniel realized something. Kale was brilliant, but he lacked patience. He wanted fast answers, quick success. He did not understand failure the way humans did. Every time a small experiment collapsed, every time the glowing liquid turned black, Kyle hissed with anger. Daniel used those moments to speak. "You rush too much. Humans take time. If you force it, you will destroy everything," Kale glared. But deep down he knew Daniel was right. One night, Kale showed Daniel a new device. A tall cylinder filled with blue mist. Inside the mist floated something small, a shape like a beating heart. Daniel stepped back, horrified. "What is that?" he whispered. Kale's voice was steady. "A seed. The beginning of my people. It will live if placed inside the right host." Daniel's chest tightened. "And you want that host to be me?" Kyle did not answer. But the silence was enough. Daniel knew he had only one weapon left, and words. So he spoke quickly. "You said your people need survival. But if you kill me, you lose your only chance. If you push me too far, I will break, and then you will have nothing." Kale's spines flickered. Glowing faintly, finally, he growled, "Then teach me. Teach me how humans survive. Teach me how your bodies grow strong." Daniel nodded, hiding his fear. "Fine, but you follow my lead." Kale leaned closer. "If you betray me, human, I will end you in ways your kind cannot imagine." Daniel's throat tightened. But he forced the bravest words he could. "Then don't give me a reason to betray you." That night, Daniel lay awake. He knew he had bought himself time. But time was not enough. Kale's obsession was growing. The machines hummed louder, the blue seed pulsed brighter, and the walls shook with strange energy. At midnight, the lights flickered across the city outside. Daniel looked out the window and saw the street lamps dying one by one. The power grid itself seemed drained. From Kale's room came a violent crash. A burst of red light seared through the cracks. The floor trembled, and Daniel heard Kale scream in his alien tongue. The machines wailed like dying animals. Smoke filled the hallway. Daniel rushed toward the door, his heart pounding. He saw sparks shooting from under Kale's room. The experiment was breaking apart. The air burned with heat, then silence. Only Kale's voice whispered from the smoke. "You are right, human, I cannot rush, but tomorrow, we begin again." The apartment was no longer just a home. It had become a living laboratory. Machines hummed through the night. Blue lights flashed under Kale's door, and every morning Daniel woke to the heavy smell of burned metal. Daniel pretended to help. He drew simple sketches of the human body. He explained things in a slow, careful voice, but inside, he was waiting for a chance. He knew Kale's obsession was growing louder than the walls could hide, and one day somebody outside would notice. That day came sooner than he thought. It started with a power outage. Half the block went dark one night. The street lamps flickered and died. Phones lost their signal. Neighbors stepped into the hall whispering, "What's going on?" Did something blow out? Daniel's stomach twisted when he heard Kale's machines still humming loudly. Too loudly, like they were eating the power of the entire street. The next morning, Daniel left to get groceries. At least he wanted Kale to think it was normal shopping. But on the corner of the street, he noticed a black van parked silently. 2 men inside stared straight ahead. No talking, no movement, only waiting. Daniel's pulse quickened. Something about them felt wrong. Not neighbors, not workers. They were watching. When he returned, Kale was at the window, his glowing eyes hidden behind his mask. But Daniel knew he had seen the van too. "They are searching," Kale said quietly. Daniel froze. "Who?" he asked. Kyle turned, his expression dark. Your own kind. They smell what they do not understand for the first time. Kyle looked unsettled, not angry but wary. He paced the room with restless steps. The signals cannot be hidden anymore. Their machines will follow the noise. They will come here. Daniel swallowed hard. His heart beat faster with a dangerous thought. If outsiders discovered Kyle, maybe he could be free. That night, Daniel dreamed of freedom. He dreamed of telling the world, but when he woke, Kale was standing over him, the mask gone, alien eyes glowing bright. You were smiling in your sleep, Kale said slowly. What were you dreaming of? Daniel's throat went dry. Nothing, he whispered. Kale leaned close, his voice sharp as a blade. Do not betray me, human, if they come. You will deny everything, because if I fall, you fall with me. 2 days later, the knock came. Daniel froze when he heard it. 3 hard knocks on the door. Kale disappeared instantly into his room. The machines fell silent. The air felt too still. Daniel opened the door a crack. 2 men in black suits stood outside. Their faces calm, their eyes cold, one held a badge. Power grid issue, the man said flatly. We're checking apartments, may we come in? Daniel's mouth went dry. He hesitated, but the man's eyes narrowed. Something unusual was traced to this building. We only need a quick look. Daniel's mind spun. If he let them in, they would see Kyle's devices. If he refused, suspicion would grow. Behind him, he felt Kale's presence. The alien was listening, waiting. Daniel forced a weak smile. There's nothing wrong here. Just old wiring. The man stared, then handed Daniel a card. If you notice anything strange, call this number. Then they left. The black van outside followed them slowly down the street. Daniel closed the door, his hands trembling. Kale stepped out of his room, his alien form half showing through the mask. You lied for me, Kale said. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned. Daniel swallowed. I had no choice. Kale moved closer, his shadow long on the wall. You are learning. You understand now. If they find me, they will erase you too. We are bound together, but Daniel knew something Kale did not. He kept the card hidden in his pocket. The thin piece of paper felt heavier than steel. It was hope. Hope that someone out there could stop Kale, but also fear because if Kale discovered it, Daniel's life would end in an instant. That night, Kale worked faster than ever. The machine screamed. Strange lights flashed against the windows, and Daniel heard him chanting in his alien tongue over and over until finally Kale spoke in English. The seed is ready tomorrow, the host begins. Daniel pressed the card in his pocket. His body shaking, he knew tomorrow might be the end. Unless he used the outsiders, unless he risked everything. But if he made the wrong move, he would not live long enough to regret it. And then at midnight it came. Another knock, louder this time, not just 3 knocks, but pounding fists shaking the door. Kale froze in the hallway, his mask slipping completely, the glow of his alien eyes cutting through the dark. Daniel's heart pounded as a voice called from outside. Open up, we know what's inside. The pounding on the door shook the apartment. Daniel stood frozen, his hand tight around the card in his pocket. Kale's alien eyes glowed like fire in the dark. Do not open it, Kale hissed, his voice layered with anger and fear. But the pounding grew louder. Then a voice called again. Calm but firm. We know what's inside. Open the door, Daniel. Daniel's heart stopped. They knew his name. Kale's head snapped toward him. How do they know you? He demanded. Daniel stuttered. I don't know, maybe they traced me. Maybe. Kale stepped closer, spines rising from his back like blades. You betrayed me, he growled. No, Daniel whispered. But his hand still clutched the card and Kyle saw it. In a blur, Kale snatched it from his pocket. The thin paper curled and burned in his clawed hand. The smell of smoke filled the air. You contacted them? Kyle roared. Daniel shook his head desperately. I didn't, I swear. I didn't. The pounding grew violent. The door shook on its hinges. Open now. Or we break it down, the voice demanded. Kale's eyes flared, his voice thundered. They will take me, dissect me, and you will vanish with me. Do you want that, human? Daniel's chest heaved. He could feel sweat dripping down his spine. Maybe they can protect me, he whispered. Kyle's claws extended, glowing with strange light. They cannot even protect themselves, Kale spat. The door burst open with a crash. Men in black suits stormed inside, weapons raised. Red laser dots danced across the walls. Step away from the subject, one shouted. Kale turned, his disguise falling completely. The gray skin shimmered, his spines crackled with energy. The four burning eyes blazed like suns. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then chaos exploded. Kale moved like lightning. He hurled a silver disc across the room. It burst in a flash of blue energy. One agent was thrown against the wall. Another screamed as sparks burned across his body. Daniel ducked behind the table, covering his head. The room filled with light, smoke, and the deafening hum of alien machines. "Stop him!" the agent shouted. Bullets ripped through the air, but Kale's spines unfolded like shields. The metal screamed as bullets bent and dropped. Kyle roared, his layered voice shaking the walls. "You cannot stop what has begun." Then he reached for the cylinder, the glowing seed pulsing like a heart inside. Daniel's eyes locked on it. He knew if Kale activated it, everything would change, human or alien. No one would control what came next. He stood, his legs shaking. "Kyle, don't," he shouted. Kyle turned, his burning eyes locking on him. "You promised to help," he said. "You are the key, Daniel. Choose your people, or choose survival of mine." The agents raised their weapons. "Move away from him, Daniel," one ordered. But Kale stretched out his clawed hand. "Come to me, Daniel. Together we can rebuild a world." Daniel stood between them, his chest heaving, the smell of smoke and blood thick in his nose. His mind spun with the weight of the choice. On one side, his species. On the other, a dying alien race desperate for life. If he chose Kale, he betrayed all of humanity. If he chose the agents, Kale's wrath might destroy them all. The seed glowed brighter, pulsing like it was alive. Kale's voice grew soft, almost pleading. "You have seen my memories. You know we are dying. Do not let us vanish, Daniel." "You are the bridge between us," the agent shouted again. "Step away now." Daniel closed his eyes, his heart screamed with fear. And then he made his choice. He lunged toward the table. His hand grabbed the cylinder. Kale roared, the agents fired. The glass shattered in Daniel's grip. Blue liquid splashed across the floor. It hissed, burning through the wood like acid. The seed inside writhed, glowing violently. Then it burst. A wave of light filled the room. Machines screamed, guns fired, and Daniel was thrown into darkness. When his eyes opened, the apartment was gone. He was floating in a void. Stars burned all around him. Kale's voice whispered in the dark, "You chose neither. And now you are mine," Daniel tried to scream. But his voice was swallowed by the endless black. And the last thing he saw was Kale's glowing eyes, burning brighter than the stars.